Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another onmyoji video with ScooterPie666. Today we're going to talk about souls and how you can decide, or how you can figure out what souls to pick, what soul sets specifically to pick for what monsters. And, sure, why not? Oh well. Anyways, and I was thinking about it, a really good way for me to demonstrate this would be in the Royal Battle setup. I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to get some good soul sets to show you, I'm like, I just go over here and I can show you there. Okay, so first off, there are 2-piece set bonus and 4-piece set bonus. Now, your 4-piece bonus is always more important than your 2-piece set. If you can, you always want to get a good 4-piece set. And then if you have broken crap until you get a 2-piece set to support it, that's fine. But your focus should be on a good solid 4-piece set if you can help it. You could go with 3 2-piece sets, but it's never going to be as useful as the correct 4-piece set. Although you can use them temporarily until you get what you're looking for, but that's early on. Alright, so anyways, let's dive into this. So, there's a couple of types of monsters. One being DPS, or damage per second, and the second being support. Okay, those are the two main categories, I guess you could say. DPS, or damage per second, are your damage output monsters. They're the ones that are doing all the damage. Everybody else on the team is to help support your team and increase your team's chance of being able to do the damage first, or increase your survivability, or increase your team's speed, or orb potential. But we'll get into that a little bit more. Let's start with the easy ones, DPS, okay? So in the current weeks, this is going to be an interesting week, because, I mean, look at this. There's freaking Kamatachi. There's Zashiki. Ubume. Oh, this is going to be a nasty one. Yoda Hime's here. I mean, she's been here the last few. Hannah's here. This is going to be a crazy royal battle. It's going to be our stiff one, because... yikes. Anyways. Alright, DPS, damage per second. So there's two main types of DPS, I guess. Well, there's 3 types of damage per second. The most effective is AoE damage, or single target. So like Ubume or Utengo are AoE. Technically, Inugami has an AoE attack also. And that is area of effect. And then, so, basically, anybody who has, let's just go into Ubume here, a multi-hit or area of attack, something that hits more than 3 or 4 times, I would say, or at least 3 or 4 times. You're gonna want, let's see here. So for Ubume, Utengo, who else? Yodohime, maybe, I don't know, how many times does this hit? 3 times, attacks all 3 times. Yeah, him too. You can do him too. Anybody who's got a multi-hit, even Inugami, this technically it would work with Inugami, but he's a little bit different. But The absolute best soul set for all of those monsters, or 4-piece soul set, is, if I can find it, it's in here, right? Where the hell? Seductress. Set stat grants a 40% chance of inflicting damage equal to 10% of the target's hit points when landing a crit, up to 120% of the own attack. So, the caveat to Seductress is you have to have your crit high, which is not really bad for a DPS monster anyway, so, I mean, it's fine. You can go for any 2-piece crit set. Like, you just go with more Seductress. Anything that gives more crit, just to increase your odds of getting your crit percent up there. So, once you get past that, of course, you're going to need to increase your crit. Right now, of course, it's not as easy as it is right here, where I can just slide a move bar and spend my points on increasing my crit. But you want to get your crit up to 100% with Seductress. Why? Because its skill doesn't take effect unless you land a critical hit. So, the next thing after crit is going to be crit damage and attack. Those are going to be the most important. You want to get your attack up to around 3 to plus 4,000. Like right there is a really great one, and then get the rest of it. If you could have that, like these exact stats, you'd be just like seriously hitting hard as hell. Now, of course, you're gonna need speed too. You're gonna need probably a little bit of speed. Like there, that's pretty decent right there. That's a pretty decent for, I mean, maybe not for Inugami. I just grabbed him just for the heck of it, but because he's kind of a counter monster anyway, so you want him to have attack and crit and stuff. But I mean, like those stats I was just showing you will work wonderfully on Yorohime or Ubume or Utengo. All of that stuff's great for them. If you don't want to go, other ways you could go besides Seductress, you can kind of go Shadow, but Shadow is better for single target DPS, like Ibaraki Doji, I don't know how to say his name, or just anybody who's single target, really hard hitting. Let me see if I got any. I don't see a whole lot here. Let me just go. I didn't need to do that. I think I have. What's her name? Every time. What is her? Here you go. Hakuro. She's a wonderful single target. See, she has this skill has a 237% of her attack. So you evo her and her attack goes up to an S, and then you use this, and it has a 30% crit bonus on it too, so you don't even need to have your crit as high, and you just stack the attack and the crit damage, and this skill hits hard as hell. And then you add Shadow to it, and it just gets even better. Those single target monsters like that, you give them, who's this? I don't even know. Anyways, you give them Shadow because it deals an extra 40% damage against units with more than 70% health. So let's say you give them like that. Now let's just pretend for a second this is Hakuru, so you get her attack up to like 70 plus 10, and then it has like the bonus, that third skill has the bonus crit on it, right? So you don't even know that you just go like that high. And then you give her some speed, so she goes a little bit earlier on. Give her some attack. and give her some crit damage. And then, yeah, she's gonna, like probably one-shot, like, like, anybody you want her to one-shot. Like, even the, high hit point, Ubisu's probably won't even withstand a hit like that at 237% damage with her crit that high. Yeah, that would hit really hard. Now, I mean, of course, I'm on Ubume here, but I'm trying to set up an example for the Archer Girl, Hakuro. Just use your imagination. Pretend it's her. So, other sets. Tomb Guard. The only person I can seem to really come up with that I would recommend Tomb Guard for would be the Vampire. Although Vampire is kind of a tough build. Just simply because her damage output requires her to be lower on hit points. So you need your team to last long enough for her to lose just the right amount of health. But at the same time, you don't necessarily want somebody on your team healing all the time, because then her attack's never going to go up. So it's kind of complicated to figure out how to build her properly. You're going to want, like, somebody on your team shielding and not healing. But not shielding too much either, because you still want her hit points to go down some, you know? It's kind of complicated. But you can use Tomb Guard 4-piece set to boost that up, because the thing with the Vampire Girl is she does more damage based on hit points lost, and then Tomb Guard does the same thing, so that would just be that much more on top of it. Also, just so you guys are aware, I'm recommending some of these crit-based ones, because crit is generally more effective than attack. If you spent, like, say, just as an example here, if I ignored crit damage altogether and then just, like, skyrocketed her attack and, like say if I put it like this and then put the rest on speed, it would be more effective for me to lower that down and put this on crit damage. If you get more out of focusing on crit and crit damage than you do out of focusing on attack. Always, 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 for your DPS monsters, your number one focus is going to be crit, because there's only one slot that you can get crit percent on. So that one slot needs to always be crit percent, and it's I'll show you that later. We'll get into that part later. That'll be like the second part of this video. Lost my train of thought. We'll just exit here. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically it for DPS. I mean, is like this one, the one that looks like a fire chicken, is that one useful? Maybe later on in late game you could use that one. It's a little bit tougher to use early on. Gain 3 orbs when an enemy is KO'd. Yeah, it's sort of useful. This one here grants 50% chance of ignoring target's defense by 45% when dealing damage. It sounds good at first, but you start to realize with this game is there's not really a lot of monsters that have high defense. Like, I've seen some samurais and some Ubisus with higher defense, but that's or maybe like a Shutsu or something. But and even them, they're not like really super high on defense. Defense stat is kind of weird in this game, and maybe it changes later on, but right now I just don't see this being very useful, because it's only a 50% chance to ignore 45% of the target's defense. So unless there's like a lot of really high defense monsters on the team, I just don't see that stat being useful. Most people are using claws just as their second, their two-piece set for the crit percentage. Watcher deals an extra 50% damage against units with less than 30% hit points. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're better off with Shadow than you are with that. Because, I mean, if you've gotten them down to 30% chance, that mostly just feels like it's a counter for Holy Flame. It just does. I don't see a lot of benefit for it other than that. Scarlet is useful if you're building a counter team. And the way counter teams work is they're more based off of like using Inugami, who's got already an innate counter skill, and like a second DPS monster, and putting counter on both of them, and then having all your support monsters be, you know, like a healer and like Shutsu for the water link thing that helps make everybody share a hit point pool, and like usually people throw Hito in there for the damage reflect. So that's what the best thing to use the Scarlet 4 set for is. Just like it goes great on Inugami because he's got that innate counter. So this just increases your chances of him countering, and then you can throw it on a secondary and have everybody counterattack. Soul Taker, grants a 20% chance of taking an extra move when performing an action. If you're a gambling type and you just like really enjoy gambling, you're gonna have sometimes, if you use this soul set, where like all of a sudden they'll take 3 turns in a row, and then other times they just won't fire at all. So I don't know. It's not like Summoner's War where you have the violin or whatever. It just doesn't seem to be as effective here as it was in Summoner's War. It can be, but I don't know. It just, for some reason, just isn't as effective here. And then this one, Samison, increases the speed of controlled allies by 30%. Right off the bat, that sounds impressive. Like, ooh, 30 extra speed all of a sudden for my allies. Except for it's actually only for if your team gets hit by negative status effects, like controlling ones like daze or freeze or I think sleep. It'll increase their speed by 30, just making it so that they move faster to get the status effect off them faster. But you're better off with resistance than you are with that, and just resisting the effect altogether. So I don't know. Me personally, it's not that great. Nightwing, 4-piece set, converts 20% of the damage into hit points. I suppose you could figure out ways to make that work, although it's not really for me, so I don't know. And then, what's this one? Kuyututu? Oh, this is one of those new ones that I'm not even sure how you get those yet. Maybe you just have to buy them in the mall. Does it say? No, it doesn't. Grants an extra 8% damage for each orb in your possession when you deal damage. That's actually really good for a couple of monsters. If you build a low orb usage team. Not too many people do that, but if you have, like, on my alt account, If you have, I have a vampire and Shuten Doji, who both of them, their main attack skill is actually their free attack, and their secondary skill is their passive boosts it up, and their secondary skill is actually a heal. That's the one that uses orbs. So they actually do the most damage with their free skill. So using monsters that are like that, if you have a few monsters like that on a team, and then somebody on the team generating orbs, this could be really useful. I'm actually curious about investigating that for my alt account and trying it out, maybe. And then, of course, we talked about Seductress. Seductress is like the soul set of choice right now. It's kind of the meta, to be honest with you, for DPS, for multi-hit DPS units. Like, literally, seriously, almost anybody who has Utengo, Ubume, or Yorohime is using Seductress. Almost everybody. And there's a really good reason for it. So, like, for instance, it does more damage based on how high your attack is and how high the enemy's hit points are. So it's really, really useful against, like, higher hit point bosses. Like, pretty much after Soul Stage 7, it starts getting really useful. It's not so much against 6. He doesn't have quite enough health yet. It's really helpful against Kraken. It's helpful against the guild boss that's daily. It's really just all around very useful. Okay, so I've been rambling for quite a while about DPS units. It would even work good on him, although not quite as much. Let's go into healers. So Hannah is a healer. She's a little bit of a weird one because her first skill, so her heals are based on her hit points, right? So as far as what soul set to use, you can use this one right here. Increases all healing effects by 20%. There was some talk among a few of the YouTubers about that soul set not working. I don't think that's true. It seems like it works when I tested it out before. So that's definitely one that you can put on a healer. The truth is that with healers, you have a lot of options. Any of your support monsters, you can throw Fortune Cat on if you need more orbs, or you can throw Azure Basin on them if you need more orbs in your team. Azure Basin gives 3 orbs at the start of battle, including the start of each round. And then Fortune Cat has a 50% chance of giving 2 orbs every single time they take a turn. Fortune Cat is more useful for long, drawn-out battles that go slow. And Azure Basin is more beneficial for the hard-hitting, early-on nuke team. Although you probably are going to end up wanting both if you have an orb-intensive team. But what it boils down to, as far as I'm concerned, your healer should either have Tree Spirit. Tree Nymph is not bad either, though, because you get extra defense, and then you have a 25% chance of removing orbs every single time anybody on your team takes damage. So, you can starve the enemy of orbs. That's a really interesting way to go. A third option, actually, and a pretty decent option, is Soul Edge. Soul Edge is great for any monster who's going to have really high hit points and high defense. Which most of your healers will have, maybe not all of them, but Ubisu, probably Momo, and what's her name? Hannah will you're definitely going to want to have high hit points. And Soul Edge can be really useful for helping to keep your team alive. It reduces the damage that your team member takes and has a 50% chance of sharing the damage. So, actually, I think I said that wrong. It has a 50% chance of reducing the damage they take by 20% chance and sharing 50% of the damage. So, it reduces the damage total down to 80% and then takes 80% for whoever has the Soul Edge set on, and 80% or 50% of that for who got attacked. So it's really good for, you know, putting a tanky, super heavy tank monster on your team, give them Soul Edge, and then they will help protect some of the lower hit point monsters on your team. I talked about Azure Basin. I suppose you could put Boroboraton on. Damage taken decreases by 30%. It's like a permanent 30% shield, basically. It's kind of fairly basic. It's not real impressive, if you ask me. Holy Flame, I don't know. It just... I would recommend Tree Spirit over Holy Flame. Holy Flame kind of works alright, I guess. It's just, I don't know. It's not my favorite. And then, was it Dawn Fairy? No, Mirror Lady. The other possibility would be like Mirror Lady for just reflecting back damage, although that can be used on some of the other supports. Usually, seriously, like Tree Spirit is like one of the highest recommended 4-piece sets. Except for healers, except for maybe like Kusa, because Kusa is totally different than most of the other healers, because her heal is based on her attack power, not her hit points. So you just want to give her enough hit points to survive and then get her attack and crit, because heal crits as well. So you want to get her crit as high as possible. I could be wrong about Momo. I don't remember if her heal is based off. I don't have her. And I can't remember if her heal is based off of attack or if it's based off of hit points. But heal is something in this game that can crit. So having crit on any of your heal monsters is actually fine. Because it's just going to increase how much they heal. But you're going to want to pay attention to what your heal is based on, whether it's based on hit points or whether it's based on attack power. Other support monsters, really good support monsters like Yukiona, or who else? Chorobumo. Who else? He's not really super great. Who else? Yeah, there was another one. Was it her? Yeah, her. Momiji? Or whatever. Momigi? I don't know. She has 30% chance plus effect hit chance of enemies being possessed by a Maple Doll. So, her, Joro, who's got effect hit, and Yuki, who's got, that's the wrong one, it's this one, 8% plus effect hit. I don't know, maybe not for Yuki, it's so great, but Yuki, she's alright. So, those, like, the monsters with those three that have the AoE crowd control skill, like hers is a 8% chance plus effect hit of inflicting freeze, or hers is complicated, but it's a 20% chance plus effect hit plus 1 for each speed difference of inflicting daze if she's faster, and if she's slower, it's a 25% chance, or it's an extra 25% chance plus 2.5 for each 10 speed distance of increasing damage. So you basically want her fast if you want to go for effect hit, and you want her slow if you want damage. But that's neither here nor there. Let's just ignore that and just say we're going for the crowd control skill of dazing and the effect hit. So obviously you're going to want your effect hit as high as possible, right? But the soul set, I almost always recommend, if you're going for crowd control, is Mimic. And the reason I say that, so there's a lot of options. Let's see if I can find them real quick here. Alright, let's see. Priestess is one. 8% chance of daze. Plus effect hit. What else? Who else? There's Mimic. Snow Spirit, 12% chance plus effect hit for freeze. Temptress, 25% chance plus effect hit of confuse. I thought there was one more, but I guess not. Yeah. So anyways, there's all those. The reason, though, that I recommend Mimic, for one thing, it's 25% chance. So it's tied for the highest percent chance plus effect hit. But it's to inflict a random debuff, and it can actually... this particular one has the ability to put all of them on. It can actually put more than one on a person. So I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, I believe the way it works, just based on my experience in using it, is if it misses, it completely misses. But if it hits, it will put use a random number generator to figure out which crowd control effect or which debuff goes on, and then it does another roll to see if it goes again, and if it does go again, then it randomly generates one of the other ones, and then it will check to see if it goes again. So if an negative effect goes on, there is a chance that it'll add more. And I've seen up to 4. I suppose it's possible that it could go more, but I've seen when I put this on somebody and then give them high effect hit and go in against a 5-man dual team or something like that, where I've seen it where, some monsters will have, nothing on them, and other monsters will have, 3 or 4 negative status effects on them. Or, everybody on the enemy team has something on them, and maybe, 1 or 2 have 1, or have 2, or maybe even 3. But your best chance of adding a crap ton of negative status effects is Mimic for sure. If you're not going to go with Mimic, the next best one, in my opinion, is Temptress, because it's the other one that has a 25% chance plus effect hit. In my opinion, Snow Spirit at 12% or Priestess at 8% is just too low. Well, you're like, well, it's only, if you're just like me, you're probably thinking, well, it's 8%, but it says plus effect hit. So if I just get my effect hit up to 100%, then that's 108%. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. It's plus effect hit percent, right? So it's, if my effect hit is 50%, right? It's 50% of the 8%. So it would then be 50% of 8% is 4%. So it would take that 4% and add it to the 8%. And it would make this a 12%. Right? 12% chance is just not high enough. Even if I had my effect hit at 150%, right? Let's say I went super ultra crazy and I got really great effect hit souls on every single slot, and I got my effect hit up to 150%, right? That's only gonna put an extra, be 12%. So you add 12% to the 8%, and I have a 20% chance of inflicting daze with this on the target when I deal damage. That's just not high enough. It's just not. Contrary, though, if I come to this one, Mimic, or this one here, if I had, let's say I just had 100% effect hit, then they would be a 50% chance of inflicting confuse, or a 50% chance of inflicting a random debuff on the target. Right? So that's way better. I mean, without the effect hit at all, it's still higher than Priestess was. And it's still higher than you're ever gonna get. I mean, even this one at 12%, it just doesn't compare. You just, it's too low of a percentage to be really super useful. I mean, Snow Spirit could be useful on Yuki Ono because she already has the freeze, so you're just increasing your freeze chance. But in my opinion, you're better off with the higher percent one. You get your effect hit up to 100% on here, and the next thing you know, you got a 50% chance. And then you add that to somebody like Utengu or Ubume, or even Inugami, who hits a lot of times, then you increase that chance even more, and next thing you know, everybody on the enemy team has got like a lot of status effects. As long as their resistance is too high, because if they got high resistance, then you're not going to get anywhere. But crowd control can actually be really useful in this game. Kamatachi. Kamatachi is a puller. He is somebody who pulls your team to the front of battle. He does that with, with this skill here. At level 3, raises the move bar by 30% of your entire team, plus increases their attack bonus, right? Sorry, my nose is itchy. Itchy nose. To be completely honest with you, the soul set that you put on him doesn't really matter. My Kamatachi has got broken garbage on him. All I've really done is just put whatever soul has the highest speed on him, because speed is all that really matters. And you might say, well, if that's the case, why not throw, like, what's that one, Samuson on him? But you have to remember, that only happens, that extra 30 speed only happens if he's in a controlled state. So it's not really going to help you anyway. You just want him fast. Fast in hit points, fast in defensive. If you're going to put a soul set on him, then by far the best choice is Fortune Cat for your pullers, just because you want them really fast, and if they're really fast, then you might as well put Fortune Cat on them, because they're just gonna give you that much more orbs. Of course, if you have an orb-intensive team, you need all the orbs you can get. For the most part, just about anybody else, Zashiki, they just really need to be tanky. It just depends on what you have to really seriously just think what you want your team to do, what that person on your team is there for, and what you want them to do, and which 4-piece soul set would benefit them the most? What helps them focus on taking their strengths? So there's two ways to think about it. You can either focus on their weakness and build that up, or focus on their strength and build that up. Almost every time, focusing on their strength and making it and taking advantage of it is the better way to go. So if you have a healer, make them defensive, give them a lot of hit points, make them hard to kill, make them use Soul Edge or Mirror to reflect damage back, or shield your team. Which is the soul set that shields the team? I can never remember. Not that one. Shy Soul inflicts sleep. That's it. So that was the one I totally missed earlier on Joroguma, or somebody who uses crowd control area of effect hit. The reason I didn't recommend this one is because sleep will go away as soon as you hit somebody. So that's the only reason I didn't recommend sleep. To be honest with you, I do not at all understand why this percentage is not higher. It doesn't make any sense to me. That percentage should be higher than Mimic, because that makes that soul stupid and useless. It really is dumb. It's Jizo statue, isn't it? Creates a shield absorbing damage equal to 10% of the max hit points. When taking a critical hit, has a 30% chance of shielding all allies as well, minus 18% if taunted. That percentage sounds pretty low, but it's actually like super, super useful. Yeah, it's pretty useful. Other options, you could use this one, 25% chance plus effect hit, minus 60 with taunt of inflicting daze on a target for 1 turn when taking damage. If you're building a very defensive or counter team, that soul set can be super annoying. For somebody who goes and uses area of effect attack, and you got that on there, and they hit you 4 times, and the next thing you know, at their 25% chance plus effect hit, you got your effect hit high enough, and it goes up to like a 40 or 50% chance. They hit you 4 times, they're getting dazed, and it's gonna be really annoying that they just got dazed from attacking you, especially if you're tanky enough to survive it. So that's a really good soul set for a defensive team. Dice Sprite counters 1 random target on a normal attack when resisting an effect. That's not nearly as useful as Scarlet, which is the one that just counters a normal attack, has a chance to counter a normal attack. This is going to happen way more often than Dice Sprite is. Dice Sprite has a higher percentage if the enemy has a CC on their team, but if they don't, it's not going to happen at all. So, in my opinion, at least with the current meta, there's not a lot of CC teams. You're better off with Scarlet. If that changes later on and there ends up starting to be a lot of CC teams, then probably that will make Dice Sprite become much more valuable, but the way it is right now, it's not. Sea Sprite produces a shield at the start of battle that lasts 1 turn. The shield lets all allies absorb damage equal to 10% of the hit points. That's like a automatic shield at the beginning of battle, and is useful if you have a slower team that's looking to resist a nuke team. Also, this one here, Yamabiku, blah, 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 grants a 50% chance of reflecting a control effect, daze, Silence, sleep, confuse, morph, taunt, and sleep back at an enemy. I'd actually say that is probably even more useful than Dice Sprite is. Just because, you know, somebody's like, watch this, I'm gonna go F with their world. So you end up fighting against somebody, you know who has a, CC monster on their team. You could have this on somebody and throw them into your team real quick, and that would be somewhat useful at least. But the only problem is it probably only reflects it back at the one person that attacked, and everybody else on your team would still be hit by it, so and you'd have to have like everybody having that to be really super useful. In my opinion, Zashiki just needs to be really tanky, high hit points and high defense, because he provides orbs like crazy, but he also he sacrifices, like at even max level or max skilled, he still loses 20% of his hit points every single time he does that to give you 3. So like he gives you 3 orbs like this, and it spends 20% of his hit points. So the more hit points and defense he has, the better, and he usually goes well on a very, very high damage output team or somebody with a healer, because at some point he's just going to be dead from spending all his hit points. Susabi is somebody who goes really good with not Scarlet, Seductress also, because he's got, like, this skill here uses, it's only 3 attacks, but he also has, I think it's called Moon. For some reason I don't see it here. Oh yeah. It activates Moon, and when that happens, he can spend every orb you have to do an attack. So, I mean, if you have 8 orbs, he'll do 8 attacks on somebody, and if you have Seductress on him, then that damage can add up really fast. Of course, it takes all your orbs too, so I don't know, it's kind of weird. Interesting. Yeah, it looks like this is going to be a crazy royal battle this week. Alright, so anyway, I've been rambling way too long, so don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. You guys take it easy. Peace out. Have a good one.